Okay, Deron Brown here. This is a podcast for men where we help men become the best version of themselves. Right now, I have alpha villains with me, and we're going to discuss masculinity, relationships, friendships, and just life in general. But alpha villains, can you give them a little bit background on yourself?
Absolutely, Deron. Thank you for having me on, man. It's an honor to be here, man. I had an opportunity to watch you and my mentor, Afi Kingdom. Shout out to Afi Kingdom. Do a show together, and it was an excellent show. I like your style, and I like the direction of your channel. Then I started to dive deeper into your content, geek speak, and all that. But I go by the name of AV, aka Alpha Villains. The basis of my channel is to really change a narrative, right? If a man is in pursuit of betterment, he wants to become the best version of himself, whether it's with women, finances, or fitness. He's demonized for it. And I wanted to change the narrative based on letting everybody know, let men know it's okay to be masculine and provide an objective perspective in a space that's a little confused right now and inundated with binary rules, right? If you're a man, you got to be this way or this way. So I'll try to give an objective perspective. I got a morning show, Finish Your Breakfast with AV, weekday mornings, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, man, because I've been, just watching YouTube over the years, and I feel like masculinity is always associated with having money, females, and just having that high lifestyle type of living. But I know that being a man has a lot more to do with being aggressive or getting women or getting money, and I feel like
Sure.
it's not well rounded enough, man. I feel like I saw your content. You touch bases on a lot of different things, a lot of
Right.
life things that young men are going to have to deal with,
Right.
not outside of just women, your
Sure.
friendships and your relationships. I've had to deal with a major change in that since I've been pursuing my purpose.
Right.
And I definitely want to get into it. But for
Sure.
you, what do you think masculinity is all about?
You know, like you said, masculinity, I think, is self awareness, right? I think it's self awareness. I think it is the ability to tap into your innate um, animalistic instincts, right? It's really just about being able to lead, being able to be self aware of yourself, allowing yourself to generate value within yourself by creating the person that you want to be and be unapologetic, right? Masculinity, unfortunately, Duran, is now associated with the type of car you got, the views, the chains, the subscribers, the women that you have. And although that's a part of it, being 48 years old, I've been there, done that, right? And I've realized I know a lot of guys, man, that got the money and they got the subscribers, they got everything that I aspire to have, even content creators. And behind the curtain, they're really not happy. They're not fulfilled. So at the end of the day, man, I think masculinity should be defined as a person achieving his goals and achieving a lifestyle that he wants to achieve. If he wants to have a family, cool. If he wants to marry a single mom, cool. I try to provide guys. I don't hold anybody accountable because it's their job to hold themselves accountable. But I think masculinity engulfs and entails a man making a decision and living it to the best of his ability.
Okay. I've been going through my own masculinity journey, and I'm definitely not there yet. But from what I can tell is when it comes to being masculine, being a man, it's about owning who you are. A lot of times you feel like you want to get your friends' approval, or you want to take on this be this archetype that society tells you you're supposed to be, this breadwinner, this great husband, all this stuff. But I think that for me, at least where I'm at right now, I feel like a man has to know who he is and to live by his standards, whether that's a family member, a friend, or a woman. You have to be willing to cut people off if you have to, just to maintain your peace.
Man.
If you don't mind, could you give a little bit background on like your masculine journey?
Sure. Yeah, man, you hit it on the nail. Cutting people off. I think that's the first step. And sometimes we have to cut the people off that are closest to us, right? I think during the pandemic, the C-19, some of us got a whiff of that, friends, family members, the strong and the weak. But part of being a man is being able to identify who you want to be and be unapologetic about it. And that may mean having to disappoint people that were closest to you. A lot of men are raised by single mothers. I'm one of them. And I talk about this on my channel a lot. I went to therapy. Again, I'm bad with dates. Let's say 10 years ago, 48 years old, around 10 years ago. I went to 6 sessions. It wasn't over a woman. It was more about connecting dots, right? I'm a black man. I did what I was supposed to do per society and what my mama said and shit like that, but I still wasn't fulfilled. So once I went to therapy and I started speaking out loud, answering my own questions, solidifying any doubts that I had, that's when my relationship with my mother started to stray, and that became strange. So then I became it got to a point, Duran, that I had to choose between who I wanted to be as a man or the man or the version of a man that my mother wanted me to be. So that was strike one. Then that started to bleed into friendships, outgrowing friends, women. I started to change my viewpoints. Women weren't, see, because when I went to therapy, everyone was clapping. They were like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I think this is great." When I came out, I didn't come out the version that they wanted me to come out as. I came out a better version of who I knew I was deep down. So when you become unapologetic, you start to have to choose between family members, friends, loved ones, even friends. So masculinity, the journey of masculinity, that transition is a lonely one. And they always say it's lonely at the top, but I always say it's lonelier on the way up, because it ain't pretty. And then you have to decide what's more important to you, pleasing others or being fulfilled and pleasing yourself.
I had to definitely go through something similar with that, especially with my mother. And it really didn't make sense to me until I got to, pretty much this age or a few years ago. But when I graduated, I'm originally from California.
Okay.
And in the Bay Area, there's a school called De Anza College. So I graduated from De Anza College. It's a 2-year college.
Okay.
And I remember my mom didn't go to my graduation. And when I told her about my graduation, she was like, her response was, "What you do is easy. Anybody can do that. I'm not going to your graduation." And she said it like it was she was cold when she said it. I remember I was just playing the game and I looked over and I was telling her, and then she just had so much anger in her face and her tone of voice. I was just like, "What?" And then what surprised me was that my pops, he was in and out of prison growing up. And so he really didn't raise me. I had a stepfather, but when my dad was around, he was around. And also he was like a pretty boy thug. So he would have women pick me up, take me clothes shopping for school. Right. So he had it like that.
Right.
But he actually came to my graduation, and so did my brothers. So, that was the first thing that kind of threw me off. But I noticed that over the years, when I transferred to University of Utah for football, and over the years, my mom would send me these just weird text messages about like,
Bro,
I have siblings through my mother, from my stepfather, and I have siblings through my father. And I remember my mom would compare me to my siblings, and my brothers wasn't doing nothing. It was doing more just street shit,
Right.
And then she was just always trying to put down what I was doing for them and comparing us. And I had to tell her, like, "Hey, don't compare me to my siblings. I have a great relationship with them. So don't create that kind of environment."
Right.
And my mom can be nasty, man. So she have a mouth on her. So she let me know. And I was like, "Hey," I was getting ready to graduate with my master's. I said, "Hey, you're not welcome. You can't be here." I told her that. And her friends was flying out, right? Her friends was flying out. So I think one of her homegirls flew her out as well. And then when she came here, we had a conversation about it. She apologized for everything. And we've been cool ever since. Every now and then she'll make a comment and then she'll delete her comment because she knows she's gonna say something wild.
Right.
But what I learned,
checker. Right.
What I learned was that the reason my mom was doing that, it was because she was afraid of losing me. She didn't want me to grow up and become a man, because my brothers, she babied them. They never really competed in sports the way I did. They never did anything really like physically aggressive, anything that made them grow from boyhood to manhood.
Right.
So a lot of them are still dependent. They're basically dependent on my mother, and I wasn't. And my mother saw that, and I don't know if it's because of my community or what, but as a man, you don't get that kind of support for your accomplishments, whether that's athletic related or if it's academic related.
Right.
How
let me can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
I got a similar story too. That it's unfortunate, man. And for me, I have a similar story. My mom, I think I came to the realization that I reminded my mother of AV Senior, right? And I ran away at 17. I was not as dependent on my mother as the rest of my siblings were. And I thought that my mother would be proud of me as a result of that, but unfortunately she wasn't. It comes to a point in time, again, you have to choose. And I was talking about legacy, right? And you don't necessarily have to have kids to create a legacy. I'm trying to build a brand, etc. And I had a conversation with my mother one day, And I said, Mom, I want to make my last name mean something, right? I want to create a legacy for the future. I want my last name to mean something. And my mother, she responded and said, what are you trying to be, a Rockefeller? And I'm like, damn, bro. That was my cold moment. I'm like, the fuck? I'm on the phone. I'm like, yo, because she's in New York. I'm in Miami. She said, we're trying to be a Rockefeller. And I was like, damn. But meanwhile, Duran, my mother's been married a couple of times, right? So her value on last names don't mean shit. So, like you said, when it comes to community, when it comes to betterment, people oftentimes want you to stay at the same level because that's what they're accustomed to you have to being, or they want you to rely on them. And when you no longer rely on them, they tend to turn on you. And that was a hard pill. That was some red pill for me. I was like, damn, still love her. Well, our relationship has never been the same as a result of because of the fact that most women are narcissists, right? And because she has my three other siblings relying on her, our relationship, and I'm the oldest, mind you, has never been the same. But I'm truly happier and at peace knowing that I am becoming, because I'm still on my journey too. Don't get it twisted, becoming that man that I want to be.
We got a question from AJ Singh. Biggest struggles that you and AV had to go through. I can answer
AJ,
this first. And I
go
mean,
for it.
honestly, I had to think about it, man, because in life, you're always going to get things that just show up out of the blue and that's going to challenge you. But if the thing that really kind of broke my heart, I would say this is my friendships. My friends were like my brothers to me growing up. You know what I'm saying? It was like I was the oldest of 11 children. You know, I didn't have any, all my older cousins were like 10 years older than me. So I was like the baby for a long time in the family. So my friends was like ride or die. I remember flying out to California to go see my friend in prison, flying out to see another one in jail. And I thought we was going to be cool for life. But then it wasn't just that situation, but there was an accumulation of different situations where my friends started to compare themselves to me. And it would say
Right,
like these sly things to try to
right,
bring me down.
right.
And because I had this false belief that they're supposed to be friends forever, you're supposed to be ride or die, have your boys back. I realized that I was told a story that wasn't true, and basically I was growing apart from these people.
Right,
I was having new hobbies, I was doing new things, and there was nothing that was binding us together. So
right.
that's why people bring you down, because they want to bring you back down to whoever you was before, so that you can
Precisely.
stay binded.
Yes.
And it took me time to realize that, because of me, I want to try to help people go up, but you can't help people rise, man. Only they could do that on their own. So for me, the biggest thing is basically learning how to relate to people on a proper basis, being willing to walk away, and then also knowing that sometimes things aren't just meant to last forever.
Absolutely, man. That's a good
Mhm.
one, man.
Mhm.
I'll say something different, but I feel the
Mhm.
same way about the AJ. What's up, bro? For me, something that broke my heart too, and this is kind of related. I'm the oldest of four. I'm the oldest. Three other brothers, and this broke my heart. My mother, because of her need to feel needed. You know, like you, on your road to betterment, sometimes you have to cut people off. And the same thing went for me with my brothers. I ran away at 17, and I used to be really close with one of my brothers and the other younger ones as well. But things started to change. We started to take different paths. And unfortunately, I don't speak to one of my brothers anymore for a number of reasons. And my mother never really intervened to try to bring the family together. And when I ran away, Duran, I've always kind of admired that family spirit, that kindred spirit. I was always afraid to do it on my own, bro, for some reason. I don't know why. Always afraid to do it on my own. As a man, you're supposed to, but I was always afraid. And I always admired people with big families, cousins, and shit like that. And I realized on your road to success and stuff, it's the family members and your friends that really turn on you. They don't support you, right? They don't even acknowledge what you're doing and shit. Are you doing that YouTube shit? You trying to So at the end of the day, man, that broke my heart because my mother chose her narcissistic, and again, I love my mother. She chose her narcissistic desire to feel needed because now she has a great relationship with the four of us individually, but collectively, as a parent, to me, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna get this shit resolved. She didn't do that.
Mhm.
And instead of intervening and now allowing my brother and I to not talk for years, she rather just be wanted for information. I still struggle with that at times, especially around the holidays. But at the end of the day, again, it all goes back to what is making me feel good and on my journey, keeping my path clear to betterment, bro, because nobody's going to save you at the end of the day. And I realized that the hard way. I got to do shit on my own regardless.
Okay, man, I feel you. I think that's just part of growing up. You have to learn how to see your parents through adult eyes.
Yes.
Growing up, I had a way closer relationship with my mother. I wanted to fight my father when I was a kid. I was like, because my dad actually told me I wouldn't amount to nothing when I was a kid. So I was thinking when I got older, got strong, my dad's like twice as big as me, but I was thinking
Right.
I'm gonna get him.
Right.
But as I got older and I understood my emotions a lot better, it helped me understand my father and what he was going through, because I was feeling the same way that he was feeling, except he responded to things differently than I did. My dad was a father at like 17, what I'm saying? So he wasn't in that headspace.
Right.
But I learned, once I started to understand myself better, it was easy for me to forgive my father,
Mm,
because society just don't talk about man's emotions a lot. And then not
mm,
only that, not only did I start looking at my father through a man's eyes, I started looking at my mother through a man's eyes. And my mom played the same games that
sure.
any woman plays. You know what
Facts.
I'm saying? So I was able to see
Right.
my mother and my grandmother for who they truly were. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's something that you're just gonna have to go through and experience in life.
Absolutely. I like what you said, man. Seasoned eyes. You looked at the. I like what you said, man. That's important. I think that's something the guys are lacking too. You said something very important about seasoned eyes, looking at the world through an adult's lens, right? We talk about red pill and shit like that, but it's very important as a content creator, and maybe you go through this as well. It's hard for me to get my message across to the younger guys, the Gen Z guys, which need the most help, because they'd rather listen to somebody who looks like them, people by people and shit like that. But for me, I think the youth don't listen enough to the older guys. Yeah, we don't have a Lambo. We're not showing everything that we have on the internet, but at the same time, if you've been on the earth longer, more than likely you're going to learn from a person who's been here longer. And I think people start to need to start relying on their eyes. The quote unquote matrix or whatever the narrative is teaching us how to believe our eyes, and we're not supposed to. We're supposed to basically try to look at people who've been here a little bit longer to see if we could try to learn from them. So when you start looking at people through a different lens, and you start listening to older people who've been there, you might save a lot of time, man, as opposed to learning when you're later on in life.
Oh man, you mentioned something around I think it had to do with like mentorship. You said the young men today aren't listening to the older men. And there's a book that I'm reading called Iron John, and it talks about how men are missing like that male mentorship that they used to have. I want to say pre-industrial revolution.
Right.
They're saying that men, they used to grow up around their fathers, their uncles, and their father. And even if their father was out of the house, there are always other men within the community
Yes.
and within the family that could help you. But ever since the industrial revolution, a lot of men were left. They left the households. They worked for companies that were like 20 minutes to an hour away from the house. So a lot of men were being raised by their mothers.
Yes.
And then on top of that, a lot of the schools, most of the teachers were females. So a
Yes.
lot of young men, they got their value and validation from women at a
Bro.
young age. Well, before it used to be the opposite, where men got their validation from men with the rites of passage. You learned how to handle yourself as a man. You learned how to understand your own emotions.
Sure.
But in today's world, it's like because men grow up, uh, they grow up being raised basically by women. They just don't even listen to men. That kind of, it reminds me of what I was saying about the black community or just any community for the most part, that they really don't support men when they're actually trying to accomplish their goals or when they have academic goals that they reach. For example, I know when I graduated from college and I did my thing, I expected my family to be excited and proud of me. But there was another woman who our family knew for like 2 years, and they threw a big party for her. They was all
Bro.
celebrating it, posting pictures. And I was like, y'all don't even know that person. Y'all didn't even raise that person. You know what I'm saying? So I was just, it threw me off. But what I understood was that I was going against the community, because in the community, there's a push for like women to get to achieve academically, to have these major careers, to be the breadwinners. And there's something in the community that's trying to keep men down.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And congratulations on that, man. I mean, that is nothing small. That's nothing. And you said you got your master's. Man, think about it. Wakanda Forever, Woman King. I mean, these are topics that we talk about a lot in this space, and it's dead horse stuff. But at the end of the day, man, you're absolutely right. See, I don't have a problem. I think strong men don't have a problem empowering women. I want a boss bitch. I don't mind a boss bitch, bro. But there's got to be roles. We can't both drive the car at the same time. My concern is this: anytime you turn on a movie now, it's the woman or a little girl that is brave. She's at the forefront. She's doing shit. When then you have the bumbling idiot of a boy as her sidekick. What is that doing to the psyche of a boy? Like you said, now boys are looking for validation. You got guys wearing bonnets, fucking wearing Crocs to school, outside. They don't want to get their hands dirty. So my thing is, again, if you have a daughter or a sister, sure, empower those girls, because I want strong women around us. But strong men, to me, aren't too concerned about a woman being strong, because we know what we had to do to maintain and be strong, because we got to go through a whole bunch of shit. Like you said, you didn't get any validation, you didn't get any parties thrown for you going through your master's degree, but somebody else did. So at the end of the day, man, there is definitely something that is outside or in the air that want to keep men down. But this is why it's important for conversations like this, because yeah, it's not glamorous. We're not talking about hoes, we're not talking about money. But in order to get hoes and money, you got to get your mind right. Because at the end of the day, women want something that's going to complement them. And because women are incentivized to be more masculine, in order to complement each other, men have to do the opposite. They got to be feminine. They got to do, TikTok challenges and shit like that, just for a woman to please a woman that's only going to be pleased for about 15 seconds until she's, got a problem with something else.
You mentioned the goofy male archetype that we have in our movies and our TV shows today. It was weird. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine in Korea. I went to go visit a friend of mine because he flies out to come see me once a year, and I had never went to visit him. So I was like, all right, it's been 10 years since we graduated. I'm going to go check him out and see his family. So I spent time with him and his family.
Nice.
And then before I left, I had told him, I was like, man, it's weird. The people in Korea, they're very polite. They're very generous, but they're also really serious. And I said, in America, man, it's like people are just more silly and they expect you to be silly. And when you carry yourself as a serious man, people tell you to lighten up or they think something's wrong with you. I had this conversation right before I left. And then I got on the plane and I landed in San Francisco. And I had to stop in San Francisco before I went to Utah. And I remember on the delay in Frisco, I was walking across the seats, and then my hand was on one of the seats, and this goofy dude looked at me. He's like, hey, man, your hand is almost as big as my hand. And just starts laughing. And I look at him and I'm like, welcome to America. There's definitely, like, even for me, for example, in college, like I hear within this space, people talk about dating foreign women or whatnot. Well, in college, I actually dated more foreign women. This is before all this conversation even started.
Sure, passport bros and all that shit, right?
Yeah. So I was dating foreign women in college, and there's definitely a difference between American women and foreign women,
for sure.
But they're not that much better than American women. The biggest difference is that they're more mature, and it's also the men are more mature as well. They're less silly. If a woman likes you and she's overseas, she's more likely to be like direct with you. If she doesn't like you, she's more likely to be direct with you. Like things proceed faster. In America, when I was playing on the football team, I remember that when I would approach a woman, she would just start acting like a little girl. She'd start playing these games, and I was kind of like,
yo,
what the hell is good? And I didn't have that much patience when I was that young because I had access, and I thought I was the man because I was a baller. But that's the biggest difference that between American women and foreign women. I don't think people really talk about that much, the maturity aspect of relationships.
I like what you said, but let me piggyback on something you said too, bro, because our stature, right? We got confidence, we got cadence, we work out, etc., beard, whatever you want to say. This is frowned upon. Now, for me, one of the things that I discussed in my therapy sessions is, I worked in corporate America. I work remotely now, but I'm still in the mortgage business, but sales, right? So I would shave my beard, wear the suit and tie and shit like that to try to diminish my presence. See, when you're working in an environment where your presence, you're threatening, right? You can speak properly, you can be polite, you can be generous, etc., but your presence outweighs or shines anything else. So people have a preconceived notion of you. And I think society now, when they see guys like us, they already automatically think something. Either you're a player, you're a gangster, you're a tough guy, etc., like that. And I think men's need for acceptance, we tend to kind of water ourselves down a little bit, as opposed to learning how to embrace our masculinity and learning how to embrace our energy and refining it a bit. See, they rather shut us down as opposed to teach us how. That's a fucking problem, because now women, like you were talking about maturity levels and shit, women are silly. You go on TikTok, they're doing silly and dumb shit. So now guys want to do the silly shit too, to kind of relate to them, as opposed to realizing and understanding that, yo, we don't have to be silly or water ourselves down. You're a man, I'm a woman. And then teach the woman how to coexist with the man, as opposed to the man learning how to coexist with the woman. So at the end of the day, man, it's not spoken about enough as far as maturity levels. And I think a mature man, a seasoned man, seasoned women from overseas, they understand that there's a time and place. There's a time and place for this shit, bro. There's a lot of guys that do dumb shit, silly shit. They expect you to smile. And the problem is too, Duran, is that sometimes, like people, for instance, for me, they'll think, oh, hey, I thought you were an asshole. I'm saying, yeah, I am a fucking asshole, but you got to get to know me. If you can't look past the exterior, that's a you problem. I shouldn't have to kind of water myself down to make somebody else who feels inferior more comfortable. So I think that's a very big point in masculinity and just maturity levels too, because we got to get past this shit, bro. Because if we want to be taken seriously, especially as black men, we want to be taken seriously, bro, and not feared. We have to really kind of like break shit down and understand people's ignorance and teach them. You know what I'm saying? By leading by example and shit like that. Because when you lead by example, people have no choice but to follow or leave. If you respect yourself and shit, you love yourself, she's going to have to love or respect you or leave. It is what it is.
I like what you brought up about like the workplace situation, man, because coming from my environment, growing up, my hometown was murder capital in 92. So just because I was in a hard and aggressive environment, I learned to be hard and aggressive. Even the schools told you if you got bullied, it was okay to defend yourself.
Right.
So now kids can't do anything. But back then I was able to defend myself. So once I finished playing football, I was away from a certain type of men. I was around everyday regular people. And, regular people are dealing with issues that the typical athletes aren't dealing with, because you're always in the spotlight.
Paper cuts.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when I graduated with my undergraduate, I worked as a janitor for a few months, and then I was doing security for a number of years. And then I got my master's in IT. And then once I got in the IT world, it was like I was a big dude. I was bigger than most people. And I was better dressed. Most IT geeks don't dress well, but I was well dressed. I wanted to present myself well because I was in grad school.
Yeah.
In Utah, the Mormons, they dress very well. So I wanted to present myself well.
Sure.
And then I just got people who were intimidated of me, man, just because of how I looked. I didn't look like them. I was in better shape than them. Right. I dressed differently, and I can speak well when I needed to. And I struggled with trying to be accepted, because I felt like when I was trying to be accepted, my boundaries were crossed.
Yes.
And because I wasn't able to address it the way I would usually address it, my masculinity was like dissipating, like it was going away.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I had to for me to maintain that masculine energy, boxing helps, competing martial arts helps, nice. But also just being willing to remove myself from certain people help protect my masculine energy. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah. And it's crazy. I know that you did IT. I have my network engineering degree. I went to a tech school. I did my A+ and MCSE, but because I was doing the mortgage thing, I was making more money doing the mortgage thing, and I let my certs expire. So then when the mortgage industry tanked, I tried to go back into the IT shit, and it was so much studying. I was like, fuck it, let me just drop it. But I like what you said too, man. I think this is kind of important too for guys, protecting your masculine energy. See what Duran did. Duran realized that his masculinity, the way he was innately feeling, was diminishing. So he had to remove himself. He looked for outlets, right? Boxing, martial arts and shit, hobbies. We always encourage you guys to get hobbies and do things to let your emotions or your frustrations out. But when you realize and you're in an environment that's keeping you down, diminishing you, not helping you grow, you got to remove yourself, because again, it's kind of like declawing a lion, right? Domesticating a goddamn animal that should be in the jungle. And when animal that's in the jungle, supposed to be and thrives in the jungle, he's at its highest peak. So again, for men, we always talk about this, man. It's important for you guys to understand what makes you feel good and what's going to help you grow. Anything that stands in the way of that, bro, whether it's family, friends, loved ones, even kids for that matter, man, you got to kind of like separate yourself and protect your energy so you can be the best version for yourself and for them.
I want to get into the manosphere, man, because we kind of spoke about this before we started the show.
So,
What do you think is missing from the manosphere?
you know, yeah, let me say this too before I say that anything. I have a lot of respect for the manosphere. You know, I have a very unique scenario. You know, I've collaborated with a lot of people early, and I'm thankful for that. And I don't participate in beefs and shit like that, even though, you know, there's been some videos about me, nothing crazy, just about my delivery. But I will say the manosphere, man, to me, because it's changed so much, Duran. I've been here for about 3 years. It's changed so much. I think what's lacking now is context. Everything is so fucking binary. You're an alpha if you do this. You're beta if you do that. And that's bullshit, bro. Because I know a lot of guys in the space behind the curtains that say this but do this. I see the text threads. I'm in the Discord calls. I'm in the fucking Telegram chats. I see it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Far be it from me to expose anybody because I don't think that's productive for the message. But when I first stumbled on the red pill, I thought the red pill was the truth, right? And I think now what the manosphere and the red pill has become is partial truth. It's biased truth. You either do this or you're not that. And it's clicked up and people are exposing other people. So now at this point, Duran, for me, I think there is a void in the space where my content, and I'm sure your content as well, is allowing men and reminding men that free thinking for yourself and understanding you can pick and choose some things from different sides and use it to make the best version of the best life for yourself. I think that's what the manosphere is lacking, man. It's not binary. Life is not binary. It's not black and white. And I think the manosphere is trying to convince people that you're either this or you're that.
I was watching the podcast, and then there was this guy getting a hard time because he had a 12-year marriage that ended in divorce. And because he got divorced, they want to say it was a failed marriage. And I was thinking, like, man, that's a 12-year relationship. That's a successful relationship. And he got 2 kids out of that relationship. And a lot of the things that people were throwing at him, I felt like I agreed with. Obviously, there may have been some red flags at the beginning and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, the guys that was saying this stuff, they weren't married. They never been married, and they didn't have children. And I promise you, when you have a child, your mindset is different when you got somebody depending on you. You know, they're just in a completely different space. And I just didn't agree with the idea that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then you're a piece of shit. You're a shitty male. You're not good enough. Because I know being a man, everybody, like, put like this, not everybody is meant to be the same. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And just because one guy is taller than you, he has more money than you, he has more muscles than you, he has more women than you, does not mean he's more of a man than you. You know what I'm saying? Your role is different, and you can get people who are going to follow you in your mission without you having all these other things. But I feel like in this space is like we're so catty about it. You know, say so and disrespectful about it. It's like we're supposed to be helping young men. But I feel like sometimes we're just clowning people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so disrespectful. It's so embarrassing, quite frankly. I mean, sometimes as a black man, I'm sure you felt like this sometimes too. Sometimes I'm embarrassed of my own people because of the way that we behave. On a larger scale, being part or being linked into the manosphere, sometimes I'm embarrassed to be affiliated with this shit, bro. Because I've collaborated with people who are hard body red pill. I've collaborated with people who don't agree with the red pill and the jargon. And I've seen both of these men that I admired because I can always admire and appreciate and respect the men who created something from nothing. The ability to monetize masculinity, staying on your square is an impressive feat. And I would never knock anybody for doing that. But those same people are doing the opposite of how a man should behave. They're either cursing somebody out, they're yelling at somebody, they're doxing somebody. So how does that fall in line with masculinity? How does that fall in line with being an example? Now, I'm sure, now again, me being new to the content space, there's an entertainment value component that's associated with it. There's trigger words, and it's a business, right? Right now, I got 1.6K subs. So I'm in a very unique situation where I haven't gone viral yet. And I always talk about this on my show. Shit, I wonder if I go viral and I do something by accident, I'm gonna have to make a choice, Duran. I'm gonna have to choose whether I'm gonna make silly faces on my thumbnails and shit and do the dumb shit that's going viral, or stick to what works for me and what benefits me and what I think will work for the guys when they reach my age. So the cattiness is silly because a lot of you dudes won't say that shit in person. I've seen, I'm behind the scenes, Duran. So it's just like this is not productive for men. So right now the content is really the content to me and the Manosphere is more of like a WWE at this point. Because now we talk about stats, right? 80% of the women want 20% of the men. So now it's all clicked up. You got some people at the head of the table that everybody's listening to, right? They're doing shit. They're fucking bitches. They're doing all types of shit. Eventually, you and I know those guys are gonna get tired of that shit too. Like maybe we have. We'll kind of slow down. Your viewpoints are gonna change, and then now, once they stop doing all that shit and they're in serious relationships, then those audience members are gonna want to follow them. But we've been saying this shit the whole time. So at the end of the day, it's not about pocket watch. It's not about subscribers. For me, it's more like, how is this person there? And I'm here and I'm saying the same thing, or I'm saying things that you guys should know. It's the same thing, man. It's hard to convince and change a modern woman's mindset, just like it's hard to change a Gen Zer's mindset. So for me, older dude, I'm just trying to, because I do this shit too, bro, for therapy for myself. Because I hear myself and I'm like, okay, this helps. And I get a lot of DMs and people say, yo, your perspective is necessary. So it's crazy, man. It's a journey for sure.
There's a YouTuber that I follow that is well educated, well spoken, but occasionally he will be a little silly, a little aggressive. And I know why he does it. He does it because he believes he has to be that way to go viral. But that's not the only way to go viral. You can go viral by having good content, using SEO. Remember, YouTube is owned by Google. So your keywords, keeping the same keywords on each video, helping make sure building a lot of content associated with that, those keywords and whatnot. That can help you go viral. It takes time, but I think people are looking for the quick way to actually get seen and notarized. That's how what's dude name? Andrew Tate. That's how he got canceled. Because he's a smart dude. He gives good advice, but he would throw something goofy at the end of it. And then that's the goofiness and the disrespect is what gave people a reason to get rid of him. But if he would have focused just on the content, he would have still went viral.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because he's already up. So it's like, it's weird. Like you see like the guys that are all the way up, right? They're already up. They got 200,000 subscribers. You see them scrambling. You either see the guys who are the quote unquote OGs reacting to videos, or just doing reaction videos. They're doing the trends. And I get it, man. Again, far be it from me. I can't tell a vet or vet content creator how to do their job. But for me, being an audience member too, I find that the algorithm and the narrative is bleeding into society. It's also affecting men too, because if you got a message, now the algorithm is your chain. It's like you're a slave to the algorithm, and you got to keep telling these guys one thing. And I think the algorithm is incentivized to keep us divided. Broads are laughing at us and shit because we fighting like bitches. It's catty. Women ain't going anywhere in terms of their content. That gets propelled elsewhere. So now this community becomes kind of like a cult. So at the end of the day, it becomes an echo chamber. And if you don't listen to the guys that have 1 million subs and shit, you're going to be X'd out and you're doing it the wrong way. And another thing too, Duran, that's even more dangerous than the fucking content creators. They're fanboys. Their fanboys are relentless, bro. And that's another sign of weakness. Because, it's like Trump getting in trouble for the riot, the Capitol Hill riot, washing his hands of it. But if I have fanboys that are doing dumb shit, doxing and stalking other people, it's my responsibility to tell those guys, what are you doing? And they're not doing that.
You mentioned the echo chamber. I was thinking about this, honestly, for like the last month or so. And about Joe Rogan. There's also a few other podcasters similar to Joe Rogan. You have a Jordan Peterson. You have just guys on that level. Right. And what they do is one person will have a person on the show, and then that person will circulate between all those different other
like a circuit, right?
Exactly. So they'll do that with everybody, and it becomes an echo chamber. But because it's an echo chamber, all of those members within that little circle, they all grow together. Right. Now bring that back to like the Manosphere right now, and within the Manosphere, there's like it's becoming toxic as far as like the views on women. People are attacking women now. Like that's becoming popular. So people are sharing these ideas and it's circulating in the group. And people say, okay, if I want to get big and I want to blow up, I have to follow this group and then I will get subscribers. But back to what I was saying about keywords, if you were to focus just on your message and your content, you make sure your content was consistent, your descriptions were consistent, you would create your own culture built around
Precisely.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Now
So
you spitting facts. You spitting facts.
yeah, and I was getting kind of annoyed at that too because sometimes I'll come to YouTube and then I have to take a break from it. And it's because it becomes an echo chamber. It's one dimensional. You're just like, man, I'm not getting no better. Some of this red pill content is like hurting my perception when it comes to dealing with the women. You know what I'm saying?
Right now, for sure. Can we? And I'm sure we're gonna touch on this too. Women. Because I know guys want to hear about women too. Our perspectives from guys that are speaking like this. You know, the red pill content and some of their ideologies, man. I agree with it. I just don't agree with the execution. Like, I think it's a theory. Some people say it's a praxeology. I think it's a theory. Some of the things, but a lot of those things definitely helped me connect some dots. Even though I never really had problems with women, there were some things I could have done better. I've done simpish things. I say that on my show a lot. But at the end of the day, I think women, the things that we talk about in the Manosphere on the red pill community are accurate. It's things that we talk about. It's easy material. It's on TikTok. It's everywhere we go. I just think the execution needs some work and some polishing because, again, everything is not binary. So, yeah, they talk about body count. They talk about girls' trips, all this shit. There's a lot of truth to it, but there's also, it shouldn't cause men to categorize all women, even though the numbers are high. I think it's very important, as opposed to super chatting a content creator or listening. Go out there in the field and see for yourself, because I, Duran, have changed women, quote unquote, loose women, quote unquote, party girls and shit. I've calmed them down. You said it best too. You said the other before that women will be putty in your hands because, you know what I mean? They would just be kind of like little girls and shit because of your presence, because of your confidence, etc. So I think when a man works on his mindset, he works on his ability to know who he wants to be and pursues that, all that feminism and all that shit that they've done to the other dudes doesn't necessarily apply to you if you know who you are and know what you're going to tolerate.
You have a video, you talk about immature men, and I fall into this. You said that an immature man does not commit to a woman that has been showing you, doing basically everything for you, giving you reasons to make her your main woman. And I definitely had quite a few different women who are doing everything I wanted. And for whatever reason, when I was younger, I had a false belief on who I was. I thought I was basically bigger than who I really was. And I thought I needed to be with like some supermodel chick. And then basically, and because I had this false belief, I would pass up on quality women that could have been my wife potentially. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
How do you think young men should go about choosing a partner?
That's a good question, man. I think men should really take their time. It really takes a really long time to get to know somebody. I mean, shit, at least a year. We talk about it in the space a lot, 4 seasons, right? I got to see you for 4 seasons, which equates to about a year. But I think men want to put the cart before the horse. Men are focusing on female nature as opposed to their own nature, masculine nature. I think once you understand who you are, Duran, you have a mindset of where you're going, and where you've been and what it took for you to get here. You understand where you're going, where you want to go. You're not going to let anything derail you. When you have those things in check, or at least the majority of them in check, it's easier for you to find out and discredit women who won't fit that program. See, a lot of niggas want to get with bitches and shit because they bad, they're sex deprived, etc. And I get that. We've all been there too. But I found when I had personal growth, it was easier for me to pick a long-term or a main woman that fit my program. See, for me back in the day, we picked women for their inability to hold liquor. I'm talking about a main bitch now. Her inability to hold liquor, or maybe she was good with kids, so maybe maybe in the future we can have kids because she likes kids or she comes from a good family. We were picking women on that. Now, those women weren't the best looking, but if you dress them up, you take them shopping, you help them pick out their outfits, those women who are average look a lot better because on the inside they're good, and on the outside you help them get to where they want to get to. So I think guys today really need to learn about who they are, and then they can figure out who's going to complement who they are. Swiping right, DMing bitches. A lot of you dudes don't even know how to talk. You better on text than in person. You don't know what the hell to do. So a lot of guys don't know who they are, man. So they're too busy trying to figure out women's strategies and psychology as opposed to know who the hell they are. So when you do that, and then when the woman, you finally get the woman on the hook, she realizes you're an empty vessel of a man because you're not really masculine. You repeated a couple of words on a podcast and shit. She ghosts your ass, and then you want to go on to a podcast and you mad at bitches and shit because they ain't shit. It's like stupid.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Man, the only way to really learn those skills, you have to be in the game. You know what I'm saying? Somebody can coach you forever, but until you get your feet wet,
Bro.
you get those bumps and bruises,
Yeah.
you understand the game better, then you'll know how to handle yourself in dating and within the relationship.
Precisely.
You have a video talking about the type of women to avoid. What are the type of women that you should not avoid, that you should invest time in? And
yeah, that's gonna vary, right? It's gonna vary on where you are in life, right? You know what I mean? If you've been the player and you've been out of it, it's gonna vary. But I think on a broad scale, the women that you should invest time in or be intrigued about, I think the women who really care, are supportive, who understand, let's say, as minute as your dreams are very supportive in what you're trying to achieve. They'll send you videos, they'll send you when you're not with her, they'll send you articles and give you ideas. Someone who's very supportive, someone who's very positive, someone who trusts your journey, who trusts your leadership within yourself. I'm not telling you got to tell her what to do, but somebody who's just quiet. Somebody who doesn't necessarily like to do the things that you do. And I'm talking about long term, right? In terms of, if you like to drink and party, I used to like to drink and party and shit like that. I had the toxic times, the Bobby Brown, Whitney Houston days and shit. But now I think that if a woman doesn't like to do all those things, and she's going to help you she's going to give you a different dynamic in the relationship. I think a woman who is financially responsible, doesn't have to make more money than you, but is responsible, values her credit, who understands what it is, who learns how to save money, and somebody who isn't necessarily materialistic. I think if a woman, good luck finding that, but if you can find a woman who doesn't care too much about what you do and is patient, and she knows that she has to earn the better restaurants as time goes on, I think those are women that you should really pay attention to. Now, a lot of times those women aren't the best looking, but like Sir Ism said from the Bay, I believe he said, beauty's in the duty. Now, I'm not telling you get with a fucking whale, but you guys will see when you date baddies and shit, they're headaches, they're very entitled. I find, for me, and I don't date ugly bros, but what I'm saying is I find it more attractive when I find a woman who's peaceful and feminine. Yeah. I don't like bros who talk like me, Deron. I don't like bros that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like,
me either.
I like the whole love and basketball vibe and shit, but like, don't be dapping me up. Don't be doing that dumb shit. I'm from New York, so it's like, nah, you can't do that. I like a woman that's kind of like listen to different type of music than I do, because it's all about the yin and yang for me, like a compliment. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could vibe out on some Poison from BBD, but like, you can't leave that shit for your girl. Don't do that shit with me. So a woman who compliments you, I think overall is the one you should really try to at least invest some time in.
We talk about submission, get a woman to submit, and all women, I honestly believe not all women are meant to submit.
Boom.
But a really big sign that a woman has submitted to you is when she accepts you and your mission, when she submits to your mission, when she says, okay, this is what you're going to do. How can I help you? She's in full support of everything you're doing. And then also I would check her household. I didn't play a big part. I didn't really pay attention to this before until I got in a bad situation. But what I mean by household is that you need to spend time with her family. If you're serious about her, see how her mother treats her father. See how she treats her father. See how she speaks to her brothers, if she has those. Because however way her mother treats the men in that household is the same way she's going to treat you. And it's unconscious. So if you have a woman that grows up in a household where the father is at the top, he's respected, and also the mother is respected. You want to be in a type of
Sure.
relationship, but then also she fully supports your mission, whether you have a big major purpose, you're trying to do your own thing, or you're working for a company, or you're just in school. A woman that says, you know what, I'm just going to follow this guy, regardless of how she looks. Looks matter. I understand that sometimes you're not ready for a relationship like I wasn't when I was younger,
Right.
but you should keep people around, keep women around that shows those signs, shows all the signs that I mentioned.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Do you think, because I know this is probably debatable, do you think we can force a woman to submit, or do you think it's something that's, because you said all women are not meant to submit, and I agree with you.
Yes.
Can we convert, and should we convert a bitch to submit to you? Or, because some guys have game, right? So it doesn't take a lot of work for them. Then there's other guys who get coaching to get techniques on how to make a woman submit. What are your thoughts on that, bro? Because I think I would love to hear your perspective on submission, because you're absolutely right. I think submission is necessary, especially since we put so much work into ourselves. I mean, you're gonna have to compromise with me, baby. You know what I'm saying? Something. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on submission, though? Should we force a woman, or should we try to make a woman submit, or should a woman submit based on what we're doing already?
You should never look. You shouldn't make anybody submit.
Thank
I
you.
think that a woman comes, that she comes that way because that's just who she is. You
Mm,
know, you have certain types of women that aren't made to submit. Those are women who are natural leaders. Some women are great leaders.
right.
I actually have a child, and the woman that I had to have a child with, she has multiple different homes. She's a CTO. She makes a lot of money. She'll make more than I do, but she makes a
Sure.
lot of money. But she's made to be a leader.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then there's women who grew up in broken households, who their mother was the mama and the daddy. Her mother who doesn't trust men. So because she's been groomed that way, she's gonna fight you more. You know what I'm saying? I think
Facts.
a woman who wants to submit to you, she's gonna show signs of that early on. She's gonna be
Right.
available when you want to hang out. You're gonna ask, "Hey, what is her schedule like?" She's gonna let you know what her schedule is like. She's gonna show
Transparency.
up on. She's gonna show up on dates. She's gonna want to hear your opinion about certain things. So a woman, she submits in those ways, but you're wasting your time when you have other things going in your life, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to pick a career, whether you have any kind of hustle in your life.
Right.
A woman that's not submitting to you is going to take away from these different areas in your life, and is going to hurt.
Yo, you see what Durant said too, bro? It's all about self-awareness. He basically said you can spot these things early on. And you
Mhm.
decided to have that relationship with the woman because you're a leader. See, this
Mhm.
is what I said earlier. We're not afraid of a boss bitch. We're not afraid of a strong woman, because we know I'd rather a strong adversary. I just don't want conflict. And I want a woman, frankly, who knows she's a boss, but she's a bad bitch and shit, but she knows when to turn it off when she's around me. And she has the ability to turn it up when necessary. But at the end of the day, if you have finesse to you, you've been through the bruises and shit like that, you kind of know how to deliver and communicate properly like a man without having to go overboard, you can have a pretty good lifestyle with a relationship with men and women, because that's part of being a leader too. We are on the
Yeah.
microphone, we influencing men. I don't like the whole content creators cursing at men, unless you're trolling,
Mhm.
but cursing at men, you call into shows, they're cursing at each other. I'm like, bro, why? Like, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Especially as an OG. There's a lot of content creators that do that. I don't agree with that. I think there is a method. I think it's a matter of respecting yourself. Now, again, you got trolls on here, but at the end of the day, the streets is watching. The internet's forever, Duran. I say some shit on the microphone's gonna bite me in the ass 10 years later. At the end of the day, for me being 40, I try to be consistent as possible, on and off camera. Women that watch this show, my exes and shit like that, they know that I thought I was the shit before I got on the camera, but it took work. And I'm still working on my shit, bro. I ain't, you know what I mean? I'm far from over in my journey, but I'm just getting started. But yeah, absolutely, man. I like what you said, because at the end of the day, a
Mhm.
woman who will submit to you, you'll be able to sense it early on when you know yourself.
Another thing I want to mention is maintaining your masculinity in a relationship. A woman will like you at the beginning, and she'll do everything that you want her to do. But if you start acting goofy and you start not really appreciating that, she'll see that that's who you are, and she'll start treating you a certain way. So she's not always
Mm.
going to put you in a leadership position if you don't show up like a leader. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
you know what's crazy too. If we can unpack this a little, because I'm sure the audience will get a lot of. Let's say you're in a long
Mhm.
term relationship. How do we maintain our masculinity? Watch this. How do we maintain our masculinity? Because it's easy for us to maintain our masculinity when we're single. Yeah, we got bitches, we got rotations and shit like that. We send them on their way. But for the guys who want long-term relationships, how do you maintain that balance? Because there's a lot of time, I know a lot of guys who are in relationship. These are thug niggas, bro, tough niggas. And we talk and they tell me about shit. I'm like, damn, my nigga, like, and you get comfortable. Yeah, you know what I mean? These are my niggas. They get comfortable. And I've done it. I'm saying, like, damn, all right. So I think it would be good for us to talk about real quick. How do we maintain our masculinity without compromising our relationship that we value because we chose her to be here?
Man, there's levels to that, man. I want to start.
Boom.
The first thing that pops out to me is like sexual aggression. Let's say you have a woman that you're interested in. She submit to you. She shows up. She's available for you,
Right.
and she likes you. Now, when a woman puts herself in your space, she's waiting for you to make a move. Right. But you hurt yourself by not making the move because she sees, like, oh, this guy isn't who I thought he was. So then she'll start playing sex games with you. You know what I'm saying? So that's one way how you hurt yourself.
That's a level.
Another way how you hurt yourself is that, say you give a woman a rule and you say, hey, this is what I had a woman try to play me before. I gave her my schedule. I said, look, I'm only free Tuesdays and Fridays. Other days I'm hustling. I have X, Y, and Z going on. She tried to say, hey, you free this Monday? She knows Mondays isn't my day. So what I told her was like, hey, she said, maybe me and you could get together Monday. I said, first off, I don't make maybe dates. And I've already told you I'm not available Monday. I was like, just do your thing. And then when you know you're free on the days that I said, we can get together then. You know what I'm saying? There's little things like that. Women they'll play games with you. You know, I've been on walks with women, and then like a woman called me like a stoic. She said she was trying to, I can't remember exactly what she said, but we was going on a walk, and then she started saying like some goofy stuff to try to like cracking jokes. And I had no expression on it. I was like, just rub it off. Right. And then she was like, oh, you're kind of stoic. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to have a sense of humor with women, but you don't want a woman's words to throw you off your balance, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, man. I love what you said too, guys. Remember, if you make a rule, stand by your rule. Even if you have kids, you punish the kid. You ground it for 2 weeks. You stick to the 2 weeks, bro. A lot of mothers, it's okay. They break it. And then you lose the credibility. I got a similar story to that shit too. Watch this. So I was dating a broad. She was going on an interview. I was helping her pick out her outfits, because I usually help pick out my broad's outfits and shit. So I was like, all right, let's go. So we went to the mall, went to the Banana Republic. So I'm picking out outfits for her, like blouses and pencil skirts and shit. I'm like, yo, here, I'm giving it to her. Picked up a lot of stuff. So then some of the things I started to hold, but her hands were getting full, right? So she put her bag on the floor, her purse on the floor, and then she walked away. So the first time I saw it, watch this, Deron. I picked it up for her and I said, here, because I ain't carrying no purse in the mall, right? Watch this. Boom. So then we go to the other section. She put it down again. And then she turned around, Deron, and looked at me and looked at the purse. And I said, yo, true story, my nigga. I said, yo, you stupid or what? I fucking walked over that shit and left it there. Just to show you guys, the bitch did it on purpose to see. Remember, like he said, they play a game. They're going to see how far they could push you. And if you lose that edge, you lose that masculine, that sexual aggression, she's sleeping, she's spooning with you, her ass is out and shit, you're not doing shit. You have to balance it out, but it all comes with awareness, man. She put the purse on purpose to make sure I was going to do it again. And again, the first time I did it was to try to be courteous, because I was like, I don't want somebody to steal it. But once I noticed she was playing the game with me, I was like, bitch, you played yourself. That was it.
You got to get to that point. I feel like there's a process for men, because a lot of young men are driven by sex. You know, I always had football, so football was my focus, right. But I was sex driven. And I think that until you like really have a relationship with a woman, or you go through something, you'll never be able to really vet a woman for who she is and what she could potentially be, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. That's good. Yeah.
We're talking about high game right now. Most of this game that we throwing out there, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, they won't know how to use it. They'll stumble across it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. You said something crazy right now too, though. You said, this is important. You just hit me in the head. You said, see, sex has nothing to do with vetting. Deron said vetting. When you vetting, it's not about sex, bro. Like I said earlier, does she like to drink? Does she like to stay home? She reads fucking books. She does crossword puzzles. Shit like that. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? That's somebody you might want to like look into. So when he's talking about this is an advanced game. When we mean advanced game, it means that something you have to have certain levels and things that you have done to appreciate and be able to connect these dots. When we're talking about vetting, sex shouldn't be the first thing on your list. Because A, you might get tired of the bitch. B, sex fades and shit like that. And if sex, as you get older, if sex is your number one go-to still, then you don't have enough hobbies. You don't know yourself, etc. And not to mention, we already know, aside from attention, sex is the only power a woman really has over a man. So if you give the bitch that and you sex hungry, she's withholding sex from you, telling you to sleep on the couch and shit like that, you've already lost your masculine edge. At the end of the day, I've never slept on the couch, bro. Never. I'm like, bitch, you sleep on the couch. And another thing, too, you said football was your outlet. We're all sex driven. Don't get it fucked up. It took me a long time, too. We talk about it a lot in the space, semen retention. Now, I'm not, for me, or no fap, I don't do none of that shit. I bust when I bust. But it took me a long time to kind of like hold my shit and learn my techniques and shit. But at the end of the day, for me to try to break my back, see, I used to date a bro. That she used to have toys, and the one that a back massager, but she converted that shit and she plugged it into the outlet. So there was no way I can compete with her. But there was a point in time where I was like, damn, this broad is numb now. I can't make her come. So I would feel inadequate and shit like that. But then I realized other experiences. I'm like, I'm not gonna break my back to try to impress a woman that has toys and is desensitized and shit, and to her make me feel bad. No. So at the end of the day, guys, this is the advantages. And these are things you have to understand and know who you are. And say, I'm gonna give you the best that I can and shit, and then we're gonna make it do what they do.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know, the thing that I'm kind of transitioning out of is just selecting a woman for sex, because I used to just, I mean, like most of the people in my circle, you meet a girl that you think is hot, you want to hook up with her quick, and then you bored of her by like the second week. And I hate that I'm like that. Honestly, I hate that I'm like that. I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? And honestly, I feel like a bad person. Right. So, but I'm realizing that because there's a woman that want to hang out with me now, you know, and we don't have nothing in common. She be smoking bowls all the time. She's attractive, right. But I'll be thinking like, man, I know where this is gonna go. You know what I'm saying? And I could hit her up, but I'm just like, man, you know what? I want to be able to kick it with somebody that at least shares my kind of hobbies, that's into what I'm doing, that I can have that dialogue with, because I think that that's the only way, that's the only thing that could prevent me from kicking her to the curb. Because I'm so purpose driven right now, building my mission. And if a woman doesn't have, like, if I don't have that dialogue with her, I'm going to be rude, I'm going to be aggressive, and I'm going to kick her to the curb just for something like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You know, the fancy word now, sapiosexual and shit, that's thrown around a lot. You're absolutely right. She's got to be mission driven, purpose driven, but at the same time too, Deron, I realized too, like most women, for me, they can't do what I do. If you can't do what I do what I say, or at least be interested in what I do, because you know that there's a bigger purpose. Like for me, for instance, like if you've been on the bench, you play ball and shit, you've been on the bench and shit, you ain't played one game. But if you do what the fuck we say, or you just there if we need a relief pitcher or what have you, you're going to get on the parade and win a fucking championship ring. Same thing for women, bro. At the end of the day, long-term relationships that I've seen work are relationships that have a lot of the boxes checked off. Whether it's, you know, being complimentary, she's funny, she's patient. That's another thing too. A lot of you niggas need to pay attention to women who are patient. I said it, I did a show the other day, 5 women you should date. And I said, one of the girls, I think you should date a career woman, because everybody wants to be a woman. Date a woman who works with special needs kids, bro. Those broads are very patient. And like, if you on your purpose to run, you only got Tuesdays and Fridays, the bitch got to find shit to do the other 5 days. That's patience. But if she knows that if she plays her cards right, those 2 days may turn into 3 or 4 days, depending on how she plays her cards right. So it's all about patience. So at the end of the day, you have to have substance. Women want this substance, these superficial things, but men are looking for superficial things too. And when you know yourself, you're going to be looking for more than just that.
What role does age play in relationships? The reason I'm asking you this is because something you just said. I'm at a situation where I had dated this Nigerian woman. She was attractive. She had a nice body. We hung out and she was on me, you know, and, you know, she was really, I could tell she was really excited at the end of our date. But I didn't get back to her until like 2 weeks because I was busy. You know, basically I was busy.
Right. So
But
The fuck?
that must have rubbed her some kind of way, and she
Mhm.
started playing all these games and doing all this, and I could see it for what it was. And because I saw it for what it was, you know, and I'm obviously I'm older now, I know how to just like move on. Basically, I
Right,
cut her to
sure.
the curb. It's not That's not going to work out. But she's 30, she's 32. Typically, the woman I dated before that was like 20, 23. So in
Nice.
European, I mean, you hear a lot about women expiration dates. Once a woman hits
The
25
wall
or
and shit.
older,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know, what I'm
Yeah.
saying, it's over with for her. You know, and I'm not sure how true that statement is, but what is your experience when it comes to dating women at different ages? And yeah,
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like right now I'm just dating. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't looking for nothing serious right now, but I think for fun. See, 48 years old, you know, we're talking about being serious, not being silly and shit. But there's a difference between being silly and having fun, being youthful, right? Because age is just a number, the time and place for shit. Um, but I've found, and just to circle back to what you said, Duran, in regards to women overseas, they seem to be more mature. I'm Haitian. My parents are Haitian. I was born in New York, but I'm Haitian. And Caribbean people have a tendency to try to separate themselves from Black American or America in general, right? So we've always kind of been a little bit mature. But you know, for me, I don't have a lot of patience for the dumb shit. So you know, knowing myself, right? You know how when a woman, they say if a woman meets you 30 seconds, she knows she's gonna fuck you. For me, 30 seconds, I know if I'm gonna want to talk to this broad. So I'm in Miami. There's bad bitches everywhere, and I'm numb to that shit. So I think it's extremely. It varies from individual to individual, but I think if you're just gonna have fun and you want to get back out there, let's say you broke up with your lady, now you want to start going back out. I think a young woman is the way to go because they just want to have fun. They're here for a good time, not a long time. But when you want to have a dialogue, something more of substance, somebody that's just as busy as you, if not busier, I think, you know, depending on your age, you want to try to get somebody who's a little bit closer to your age on the lower scale. So that way you guys can kind of have the same goals in mind. Maybe she had her whole phase, maybe she had fun already. She's kind of tired of it. And you guys want to kind of have the same goals and you're kind of headed in the same direction. But at the end of the day, man, all women, I just told you the story. My mother was acting immature. She still acts silly. So immaturity in women is never going anywhere. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, man, it really is all about your tolerance and how it's going to interfere or will it interfere with your purpose. Guys, it's all
mhm,
about your purpose, bro. See, it's easy. See, a lot. Watch this. Another thing, too. You guys don't respect time. No, punctuality is a thing of the fucking past now. Bro, me and Durant, we value our time, bro. If I'm telling you I only got Tuesdays and Fridays to hit me, you think, bro? You think I gotta groom? I got shit to do. So a lot of you guys talk about purpose, 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 but your purpose is revolving around pussy. It has nothing else. You ain't trying to get no skills. You super chatting your hard-earned money and shit. You getting drunk, you smoking blunts and shit. You have no purpose. That's why you guys are so impressed with guys who travel. I'm like, bro, what's the big fucking deal? We know what goes on out there. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. It's crazy.
how was the dating game? Because I hear a lot about Miami. I mean, honestly, a lot of content creators that are blown up are in Miami.
Yeah.
And you from New York. So this is a funny story. I had a boxing match in New York, right? I was fighting some guy at the Army. They have like
Okay.
an Army university or something in
Okay.
New
Okay.
York, upstate New York.
Okay.
So I was in New York for that, and there was this Puerto Rican woman. So mind you, I'm from California, so we don't have Puerto Ricans. So I don't
Right.
know
Right.
nothing about that. I
Right.
see a Puerto Rican, I just think it's a black person, right?
Right.
So this person came up to me, and then she was like, "What are you?" And I said, "I'm black." And then she was like, "No, what are you?" And I was like, "I'm black." And then she made me go through my family tree and
Bro.
my mother's grandmother's Native American. She's like, "Oh, oh," and then
Oh,
she's like, "But she thought I was Puerto Rican." And then I could
I
see
could
in
see
Puerto,
that. I could see
yeah,
that.
she thought I was Puerto Rican. And I was like, "Nah," you know what I'm saying? But I noticed that in New York, basically, like it's a little different when it comes to like ethnicities and things like that. But you
Yes.
come from New York, you in Miami. Miami has a lot of those Latinas and different things. How is the dating game different from New York compared to Miami?
You know what's crazy? I've been in Florida, bro, for like 20 plus years, man. I was getting into trouble in New York and I came here like 1920. And it was different back then because back then it was cool to be a New Yorker. So me,
Okay.
I got my Timberlands on the beach, the wife beater, the fitted New York hat, Duran. So it's like you already know. And niggas still do that shit to this day. You see them on South Beach with Timbers on sand. That was me. Jean shorts, Timberland boots. No, right? So it was cool. So women were really impressed with the New Yorkers. Ooh, he got swag. That was fucking different. This was before Brickell. This was before, the Wharf, all these clubs and shit like that. So it's changed a great deal. And again, um, because I'm on my purpose, I got a 9 to 5. I got shit going on. I'm not outside like I used to be because I've been there, done that. So I have war stories, but it has changed a little bit because now everyone's got a Lambo. There's a lot of scammers out here. So it's not, listen, Miami is not the real world. It's a very small oasis of the way the world really works. So things have definitely changed. It's a lot more difficult, right? If you're not flossing, you're not getting bottle service, you're not outside all the damn time. But for me, like I said, I'm doing okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm not going crazy because I don't have time and because it's a lot more difficult. And because I know it's more difficult, the energy that's going to be needed to try to get into some shit that's basic to compensate my time for what I'm doing here is not worth it to me. But it's definitely crazy out here for sure.
If you want to find a quality woman, I mean, we always talk about where not to find a quality woman, like they say, like bars and clubs and stuff like that. But if you want to find a quality woman, have you found like there's specific environments you can find that type of woman?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky subject because I find a lot of nice girls that I've been in relationships with at clubs, bars. It really depends, right? So like if a girl, like, I've had a lot of relationships with single mothers too. So these things would be called faux pas, right? According to the community or the red pill and manosphere, like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. If you meet a girl at a club or you meet a girl doing this, it really depends on the man and how the woman is going to complement your energy, right? It's all about energy, like you said. So you can meet an abrasive woman that was really feminist and really bossy with me, but when she meets you, she's like a pussycat. So what would I say to guys? I honestly would say to guys, the best places to meet women is pretty much anywhere, but the supermarkets. But who goes? That's another thing, Daryl. Who the fuck? Where do you go? You go to the gym. Who's got time to do anything? You're either gonna meet somebody at a bar, meet them at a
Yeah.
supermarket and shit like that. So it's different now, bro. It's real different. So whoever you meet somebody, you got 15 seconds to try to impress her. And again, Miami has a look. You got to be jacked up. You got to be, tall. You got to do all this shit. So for me, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I ain't a short dude. I'm 5'10", but still, it's like I got to deal with all that shit. So for me, if I go to a bar and a club, it's situational. If I see somebody, I lock eyes with somebody and I find her attractive and I'll talk to them, we'll take it from there. But it really doesn't matter as long as you're confident. See, because again, like you said, if you got game here, it don't matter if you don't have game here, it's not going to necessarily work for you overseas.
Yeah, it's not. It won't.
Right. So it's all about you at this point. Where can you find good women? Wherever you go. If you the life of the party and shit, or you command a room, people are looking at you, they stopping and staring at you. You know what to say depending on who you're meeting, then you should be in good shape. That's the best thing I could say.
Okay. The reason I ask you that is because in this space they talk about like, oh, if she goes to those places, she's immediately off the table as far as like girlfriend. Yeah. Another thing they say is about women with tattoos. And I'm learning that that's not true. You can get a good woman that has some tattoos. It might not look good when she's like 50 or 60, but the tattoos doesn't have a lot to do, I want to say, with her long-term value or how she can treat you, how she can serve you as a woman. You know what I'm saying? Have you dealt with women with tattoos and without tattoos? Have you seen any kind of difference and similarities? What?
Yeah, I have. For me, the whole tattoo thing is more of a preference thing for me. Okay. Yeah, it's sexy, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you got it like on your foot, like you got the corny one around your ankle, like old school, like the tramp stamp. I'm it's kind of corny for me. It dates you, right? It's kind of like a dated shit like that. But it's kind of the same thing with the pair bonding, Darren. Basically, pair bond. If a woman has been with a lot of men, she can't pair bond with you. That's a debatable topic. Niggas don't talk about that shit enough. Like, yeah, can you pair bond with a hoe? I don't know. Like, now, again, let me be clear because people are so binary. I'm not saying if you meet a stripper, you should wife her up or you should be with her. What I'm saying is, guys, if you know who you are, you're going to gravitate to the people who will work with you. Now, if somebody comes to you that you didn't really expect and she's willing to play ball, then you could invest and maybe see where it goes. But at the end of the day, tattoos, I'm not all big into the stats and the psychology behind it because they say it's self-mutilation and shit like that. Again, I've been with women with tattoos, sweet as can be, sweet as fucking pie. I've been with women who go to church and shit who have been fucking Satan. So again, it doesn't fucking matter, bro. At the end of the day, it's all about, see, guys, I don't want you guys to, what we're saying here is valuable, but I want you to pick apart. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with everything Duran said as well, but pick some of the things that we're talking about and apply and see what works for you. It's not a one size fit all. Masculinity is not a one size fits all. You're not supposed to act like a bitch, but at the same time, there's certain things that you can do to help make you live a better life. So the tattoo shit, I don't really agree with, because I've dealt with bitches with or with not tattoos, and I've had opposite results.
Have you noticed anything similar? Have you noticed any similarities between the type of women who are interested in you and women who aren't interested in you? Because I think for me, I'm kind of finding out which women naturally just gravitate to me and women who are naturally interested in me.
Yeah, I do. What's the similarity? You know what's crazy, bro? I attract a lot of like feminists, like the bitches that really like, oh, I hate Andrew Tate, or oh, I don't like those guys on Fresh and Fit, or you sound like a misogynist. Those are the bros that are attracted to me or gravitate to me, because I think inherently they were taught that. I think their single mothers poisoned them to think that. They're still bitter about their fucking ex-father who left them and shit like that. And I think women, at the end of the day, biologically, they want a man to compliment them, because being a man is difficult, Duran. You already said that. We know that it's difficult. We wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's a very difficult task. And I think if men were on all cylinders and really exercise everything that a man has to go through to become the best version of themselves, they would really hold themselves in a higher regard. So I think for me, I find that a lot of women who are feminists are drawn to me. Now, on the flip side of that shit, bro, a lot of broads, I lose out on a lot of women too because of what I do. I'm on the microphone, and B, they know I'm not putting up with the dumb shit. Like, I could already see the games. I'm like, no, you can't get away with that shit. I'm not looking at your ass, your tits, and shit like that. That's the last thing on my list right now. I don't even know if you're worthy of my dick. So this is me talking and shit, or me, my energy. So I find that a lot of women who claim to be boss bitches and tough really want to just be putty in my hands and shit. So those are the women that are drawn to me.
So they're basically just trying you. That's all that is.
Yeah,
They want to see.
they're
They want to see how you're going
testing
to
us.
survive.
Right. They're testing
Yeah.
us.
You know, I want to talk about friendships again. We talk about female hypergamy a lot in this space, and honestly, I think it's getting overused. We talk about
Right.
female hypergamy a lot, but we don't really focus on like male jealousy, because I can care less about a woman finding a better option to me.
Right.
But as you level up, you're going to meet, like, you're going to have these situations with men that are basically you're going to create enemies. You see it in the Manosphere. You know, people are jealous of people who have certain subscribers, or they talking about people behind their back. In one of your videos, you mentioned friends are not real. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I said real men don't believe in the fallacy of friendship. And the fallacy of friendship, because like you said earlier, you alluded to this as well, that you were told something. See, a lot of guys in this community has grown so much is because we were all told something that didn't turn out to be true, whether it was with women, whether it's how you should be a gentleman. Something didn't click. So who's responsible for conveying this wrong information for us? And because the TVs, parents, friends, etc., are following the beat of this drum, we are conflicted to see whether or not we should be doing it or not. But again, it all boils back down to choosing yourself or choosing the person that people expect you to be. Now, this is going to cost you friendships. It's going to cost you family members. It's going to cost you normalcy. But life truly begins when you get out of your comfort zone. We've all normalized Thanksgiving, holidays, doing things a certain way, family, friends, girlfriends, and shit like that. And I find, Duran, that men who live unconventional lives or have unconventional relationships are the ones that are the happiest, because they're not allowing the algorithm, their single mothers, their friends, their family members to dictate how they want to live their life. So I find that sometimes for me, because I'm unconventional in the way that I do things, and every day I become more and more unconventional because I find that it brings me joy. I have a tendency to lose friends, bro. Lose friends, lose colleagues, people that I've admired, and I ain't do shit to them. But after I started to see a trend that I still ain't do shit, I was trying to be the best person, always available, be there for them. that person A was either jealous or B took my presence for granted. And I always say, and people always say, if they don't respect your presence, they got to respect your absence. And the less people I have in my life, quite frankly, the happier I am because there's less expectations put on me from them, and there's less explaining I have to do on how I live my life. Like for instance, like if I got a bitch or a woman, I try to keep that on the low because amongst my friends too, or how I manage it. Because sometimes if I tell you how I'm managing my bitch or my relationship, that might make you feel some type of way of how you managing your shit, or I may indirectly insult the way you managing your shit.
Mhm.
So to avoid all of that, bro, for me, I like to do shit on my own because at the end of the day, I didn't want it like this, Duran, but I realized that people let me down. In order for me to prevent that feeling, I just said, fuck, I'm just gonna do it by myself, bro. Fuck it.
Real talk, I learned at a young age, you don't talk about your relationships. I don't talk to
That's what I'm
my
saying.
friends about the women that I deal with. Never gossip
That's
to
what I'm
them, never
saying.
said anything, not in college, none of
Minimal,
that.
yeah.
Because a lot of cats, what I realized when I was playing ball, especially, a lot of those guys would rotate women. They thought the women aren't the guys that are athletes in college, they really aren't, and probably even the pros. They are not the players. The women are the players. The women are the
Boom.
ones that are dating all these athletes,
Thank you.
potentially having sex with a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? So they in a better position. But a lot of these guys, what they would do is once you would bring a woman up around or you start talking about her, they would think, oh, if he can get her, I can get her. You know what I'm saying? So it just becomes competitive. So the way I avoided that was just basically keeping my private relationships private. And that's the way I want to keep it.
Yes.
Yes. Back to friendships. You know, for me, I feel like I want to say we are the way we see friendships in the Western world or in society today is just like it's improper. If you take a look at like a show like Game of Thrones, or you hear about like history about kingdoms fighting different kingdoms, I think that the word that men should use is allies, because it's pretty clear. You know if a man is your ally or not. So that's the way I handle it now. Like, are you an ally? Am I serving you? Are you serving me? Are we going in the same direction? And then if we have that, that's how I know I can trust you. Before growing up, I just saw you as a friend because you were there. You know what I'm saying? I let you in my space because you were there, or we had a friend of a friend. But if you were to replace that word with allies, you would know that there's more meaning around it, and you would learn to relate to people on a proper basis.
That's excellent. I like that. I'm gonna definitely use that ally, because allies is somebody who's gonna be we're gonna be serving each other. We're gonna be helping. We're gonna be bartering. We're on the same journey. Maybe not at the same pace, but we're on the same journey. We're going in the same direction. And you know, I talk about this a lot too on my show. I'm very thankful for the friends that I do have today. And you know, I've had friends who stabbed me in the back 20 plus years. I ain't do shit. I never did shit to them. We just grew apart. I'm fine with that. And I have people who just gravitated to me. They saw past this stuff exterior, and we wound up being really good friends. And I think as you age, life is hard as is. I know somebody said that it's hard to be a man, but we wouldn't change a thing. You shouldn't have to force relationships. Just like you said, we shouldn't force submission. We shouldn't force relationships. Things should happen organically. And I think that if you meet an ally, somebody that you can serve you, and you guys consistently, organically are reminding one another why you're in each other's lives, I think those are the relationships that are the best suited for guys who like us, who are on our purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like I have friends that I'm really close to. I don't talk to them often, but when I do, it's like it was like we didn't skip a beat. There are people that I talk to all the time that there's still some things that they don't know about me, and I don't know anything about them. I always tell my guys on my show, and I say this to YouTube guys, I don't trust none of you niggas. I say, but if it makes you feel better, you don't have to trust me either. Because again, the content creators, they'll say, like they'll expose something that was said to this. And I'm like, bro, why would you do that? So to avoid all of that and to try to protect the people that may be casualties of the choices that you and I making on the microphone, let's just keep that shit off. Let's just keep it off camera. Let's keep it out of there, because they don't want to deal with that shit. And that's crisis management in itself. Let's just talk about masculinity, and let's get that shit down packed first before we start trying to do other things that y'all niggas can't even handle. You know what I'm saying?
You know what that is just you have a business mindset. It's the same thing that happens in the workplace. Some people can't, just like some people can't get girls, some people can't get friends. So they try to find their friends within the workplace. Right. And basically what I'm getting from you within this space, some of these guys probably don't know how to build relationships with men outside of the internet. So they'll say, okay, these are my friends. So because you're my friend, I'm applying all these rules on you. You're this way, and this is how things is. And if you don't fit in that box, I'm jealous of you now. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
you have more of a like, okay, we here for business. We here to talk about masculinity, and then let's see how well that goes. If we show
Yeah.
a history of doing good business with each other, then I know that I can trust you as a man. Basically,
Precisely. Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of like the same principles that we talk about when we vet women too. Like we gotta vet each other, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like there are people that have done things, OGs in this community and shit, and they've done something like they've had a history of doing really good content and really strong contributions to the space. Then they'll do one video to kind of like denounce all the good stuff that they've done. So it's kind of like vetting people and everything. Everybody's watching your professionalism, your consistency in your message. Are you professional? Do you really want to help people? Are you trying to keep your emotions out of your message? It's trial and error. You know, I've said some things that I shouldn't have said on the microphone and shit. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to challenge anyone. I'm just here to help people make better decisions from a masculine perspective. Now, again, I'm not the end all be all. I'm still learning and growing on camera. But for me, I think that we really have to focus on one thing at a time because everybody wants to be good at everything, but then you wind up not being good at anything. Focus on mastering one thing. It's like you can't go from a white belt to a black belt. You gotta, there's levels to this shit, bro. Levels to the game, level to bitches, level to making money and shit like that. Now I know that there's guys that are making a lot of money. They're veteran content creators that I've been doing it for a year by myself. Why would I sit at the table? Why I've been fortunate to be on this show, on different shows 1 year in with only 1.6K subscribers. But that says a lot about me, and I'm thankful for that. And I don't take that shit for granted. So I think having integrity is a lost art. I think knowing, being empathetic with the journey, right? The journey, because I've watched a lot of successful people and their backstory is pretty similar to mine. I'm pretty sure is yours to yours too. There's been some dark times, a lot of fucking tests, a lot of fucking wanting to quit and shit like that, family issues, girl issues, etc. But at the end of the day, it's all about that consistency. And I think that forges a man. So when you get on the microphone, your cadence and your delivery can't be denied. Whether you make the mistakes or not online, but your cadence and your determination as a man can't be undermined. And I think that's the cornerstone of being a man.
We got a question. Official Mac Juice. What is some ways to work on building confidence? As I was reading this, it's something that popped into my head. When I was playing football in college, I was 6'3", 245 pounds. And I was strong. Obviously, we had a workout program. I was strong, but I didn't have no 8-pack. And there was this woman who got at me. It was a white girl, blonde hair. She was from Colorado. And she used to give me free food at this spot on campus, right? She was a student, so she gave me free food. And then one day, basically I was like, all right, let's kick it, right? So we kicked it. She come over and we do the do. But I can tell when I took my shirt off that she was just like, no, you know what I'm saying? But we still, we made it happen. And that was the only time it happened. And then right when that happened, I was like, you know what, man? Because I had no reason to be big anymore because I finished playing ball. And I was boxing at the time. I used to be a super heavyweight. And then I was like, you know what? Screw that. I'm cutting all this weight off. So I lost 50 pounds.
Damn.
50 pounds in 2 months, 1.5 months. I lost 50 pounds. Got all the way down to, I was competing at the lowest I was competing at was 183. Damn. So when I lost that weight, I started going to the gym with like my compression fit, my Nike compression fit, because I was feeling myself. I was already really strong from football, so I already had the muscle. So by the time I lost the weight,
it just popped out more.
It was popping at that time, and I could see the eyes that was on me, women and men. Everybody look at you when you like that, man. So just having that attention, that helped build my confidence, and then on top of that, after like working on your physique and your body, I don't know what happens to a man. When I was in high school and grade school, when I was in high school and in college, I didn't read that much. I wasn't a big major reader. But then once I got out of college, I was seeking knowledge. I was no longer dependent on a teacher or my parents to teach me. I had to do the work to basically educate myself. So I started reading a lot of books on masculinity. There's a book called The Ultimate Athlete by a professor at Cal Berkeley. Another book called Relentless. Michael Jordan's trainer had wrote this book. And I read this like a decade ago. And then after that, there was another book that I bought because of just the title. It was The Way of the Superior Man. It turned out to be a relationship book, but I bought that book because of the title. But my point is that I was reading all these books on masculinity and then also books on just mindset. Another book was called I can't even think of it, but it had to do with like being a righteous man or something like that. And then like the subtitle was Why Good People Are Divided by Politics. But that was a great book. But once I got into these psychology and all these types of books, I wasn't aware of it. But because I was reading these books, my thinking was changing. So when my thinking started to change, the way I carried myself started to change. And then people saw that. So that's another area where I learned to improve my confidence. And then from there, as people saw me changing physically and evolving intellectually, then me being willing to step away from certain people, me being willing to have my boundaries, keep my boundaries.
You're a problem. Yeah.
Exactly.
Problem.
Maintaining my boundaries, people who respect my boundaries, keeping them in, and then people who don't respect my boundaries, keeping them up. See, this is the problem with boundaries. Let's say, for example, you have a house, and within your house, you have your friends and your family. And then you have around that house is like a gate, a border around that house.
Right.
Now it's easy to keep that boundary when there's people who don't exist in that house. When there's people trying to get in the house and ain't there, you already have that boundary. Like, oh no, get the hell out of here. But when it's your friends and your family, that people you allowed into your spiritual home that are crossing your boundaries and disrespecting you, then that's when you really have to know. That's really when life tests you on what kind of man you're going to be. Because now you're at a crossroads. Because if you keep those people in your space, they're going to bring you down and they're going to prevent you from becoming basically a man. They're going to keep you in an adolescent mind space, keep you in a space that makes them comfortable. But once I was able to push people out, that helped me build my confidence, because not only was I strong physically, I was strong spiritually. And then that's still helping me to this day build a I want to say like a positive environment for me.
Sure. Stronger foundation. Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, what you said was that spot on, man. I love what you said. And you guys got to remember too, Official Mac Juice and whoever else is listening, Duran said, it takes a lot of work. I mean, losing 50 pounds, 45 pounds in 2 months and shit, that takes a lot of work. Reading books takes a lot of work too, whether it's audio or whatnot. But I think the hardest part probably, and I think you probably would agree, even harder than losing 50 pounds and reading all those books was setting up those boundaries. It takes a lot of bravery and it takes a lot of heart and determination to tell your mother, you're not welcome to come to my graduation, or your siblings, now you can't come, or I ain't never been to your crib, ghosting them. That takes bravery. And I think when you're able to do that, that in itself will build your confidence, because then at that point, you're not afraid to disappoint people. See, a lot of guys are afraid to disappoint people, and that is a hindrance in itself, because now you're afraid to grow because you're scared about what this woman's going to say. You're scared that you don't have an 8-pack. You're scared because you're not this height. You don't make this amount of money. And this is really causing invisible hurdles in front of you, as opposed to relying on the things that you currently do have. You have the ability to go to work out. You have your legs. You have your fucking limbs. You have a job. You have free time to learn a different skill, to level up. Now, on the internet, it really makes us feel like everything can happen overnight. But I think they say overnight success usually takes about 10 years. So at the end of the day, you got to remember too, after playing football, after his master's degree, the things that you younger listeners don't see the value in what we're saying, because not only is what Duran was doing isolating him, imagine how it's going to isolate you guys when the younger you are, the more you're reliant on your friends. As you get older, you start to see that friend shit is bullshit. But you got to make a choice. Are you going to stay and be an adolescent mindset and keep the friends while not growing? Or are you going to become a man and focus on becoming the best version of yourself by working out, reading, being an intellectual? Because again, at 6'3", black, good looking, master's degree, intelligent, smart, bro, he's a fucking problem. He's a problem, bro. Don't leave your girl around. You know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, you can't be afraid to be a fucking problem. I can't be afraid to be aggressive and assertive as a black man. I used to be. But now that I've learned, and I did it through trial and error, I learned that I can be assertive and aggressive and still be considered a nice guy. I can still have a company I could still be friendly. I can still be a leader because, again, you got to make a choice. Are you going to be a leader or a follower? Nothing wrong with being a follower, but make sure you're a follower. Don't try to lead from the back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to like try to make sure that you're doing the things that are worthy of the title that you want to call yourself. You guys call yourselves fucking kings, but you ain't doing shit that is righteous, that is king-like. So that's the shit.
Another thing I want to mention is my last year of playing football, I started to develop different skill sets. This helped me build my confidence. I wasn't aware of it at the time. Smartphones had just came out my senior year, and I was curious about what it was all about. So I bought I used a credit card to get a MacBook, and I taught myself how to code. Now, I had no idea that I was learning to become a software engineer. I had no intentions on even working as a software engineer. I just thought these smartphones look cool, these apps look cool, and I was curious, how do you build them? So I bought a book and bought a computer, and I got lucky. And that's what my career is right now. Also, if you check out that guitar in the back, when I was in college, I used to rap in high school and grade school. And my boys were way more serious about it than I was. And I told them, I said, hey, man, if I ever get into music, I'm going to learn how to play an instrument. So as I was getting closer to the end of my college football career, I got a electric guitar, and I took guitar classes in college. So I taught myself how to read music. But these things, even though
you're a one-off though, Dra. Yeah, you're a one-off, bro. You read it. That's awesome though. That's awesome.
You can't even see the. So I got a guitar in the back right there, so you can see that. So So even though I'm not a professional musician, and I didn't make it professionally playing football, because I had these other things going for me. I was a happier person. So when you become a happier person, you have these different things that you bring to the table. That helps build your confidence as well.
Yes, and you're not reliant on anyone else to make you happy. That's the key component. You heard what he said? He said, yo, I was doing other things, whether it was by accident or not, but he realized there were other things that he was pursuing that was making him happy. What does that do? That makes him less reliant on someone else to make you happy. Because when a woman makes you happy and she leaves, now you have a void you have to fill, which indeed wastes time. So again, I'm not saying that a woman can't make you happy, but it should not be the sole focus on your happiness. Now, again, happiness is a fleeting thing. I think there's a lot more things that we should be focusing on before it's happiness as men, purpose, fulfillment, security, etc. It's on the list somewhere. But when you're raised by a single mother, they want you to focus on happiness. When you ask a woman, I just want to be happy. What makes you happy, bitch? She doesn't even fucking know. So then guys are conditioned to think that way. Happiness should definitely be on the list, but I think fulfillment, awareness should be before those things, because once you do those things, happiness is by default occurs, because now you're focusing on the things that you want to do as opposed to something that can be taken away and leave from time to time.
We got another question. It says, why do most people that are haters are from the same race? And
that's a loaded one.
Yes, this is how I feel, man. So check this out. Regardless of what race you are or what religion you are, the people who you identify with the most will be the big ones that hate on you, whether that's friends or family, or whether you're Mormon, Muslim, or whatever. Those people within your group are going to hate on you. I'm in Utah, so Utah's a Mormon state. It's a religious state, and if you are Mormon and you don't do things the Mormon way, they're going to outcast you. And it's the same way. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in like a murder capital, right? In that environment, it has unwritten rules that they expect you to follow as a man. And when you don't follow those rules, they're gonna hate on you. So what it is that the reason you say your race is because you grew up around people who look like you and they have a certain way of doing things. And obviously you do things differently. So you're going to get hate from those people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree with you 1,000%. And also too, it typically comes from the same race because they look like you look like them, and you're a constant reminder of what they couldn't achieve. Right. So if we're in the Black community and shit, my brothers, and I'm able to get out of the unwritten rules, like Deron said, I'm able to kind of figure out the cheat code and beat the algorithm and shit and get out of the hood, do something, get my master's degree, learn how to play a guitar. What Black man plays a guitar, right? You're not, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when you get out of the hood, Now they say, oh, Deron think he's all that. Avi thinks he's all that. And it's, you know, initially it's like, damn, why can't we all just get along? But at the end of the day, we didn't want it like this. We just reacting and moving accordingly. So when you are a constant reminder of someone's inadequacies because you decided to put in the work, you decided to do more, because when you want more, you do more. And when you really take that simple ideology and apply it to shit that really takes a lot of work, and you differentiate yourself from people, there's always going to be resentment there because you were able to achieve something that they were not even willing to try. And that's why you get these internet warriors, these keyboard thugs, and all that shit. They talk all this shit because it's like, it's easy to hide behind an avatar. Again, when I was growing up, we didn't have no phone, bro. So it's like, if you wasn't there, you weren't supposed to be there. If you said some shit, and I said this shit too, the internet and YouTube is more dangerous than the streets, bro, because you could talk shit in Denver to somebody in Miami. We probably won't see each other, but in the streets, bro, on the block, you're going to get dealt with. So you're just a reminder of what somebody couldn't be and what they're willing to try to be. And that should never deter you from trying to become the best version of yourself, because at the end of the day, it's your life.
AJ, your question is reminding me, if you take a look at my older videos, the original name of my podcast was called Geek Speak. I actually have a tech company called geekmode.tech where I teach people mobile development. So the reason that my podcast was named Geek Speak, and even the reason my business is named Geek Mode, is because when I was playing football, I had support from the people I grew up with. You know, that's something that they know. People from our environment usually become athletes, or they become like musicians or actors or something entertainment based.
Yeah.
But when I decided to use my mind to make some money, that's when I got a lot of hatred from the people that I grew up with. So I thought, okay, I can't be the only black man that's going through this. So by naming my company Geek Mode and the podcast Geek Speak, I wanted to get black men to know that, hey, you can be tough and aggressive, and you can be intelligent. You can develop other skill sets and build a strong, financially stable life. And yeah, and the only reason I switched it up to a podcast for men is because I was getting a lot of the videos that got the most traffic were videos involved with manhood, dealing with women, etc. And I saw that there was a strong need for that. But the purpose is the same. The purpose is to help men become the best version of themselves and let them know, like, there isn't just one way that you have to be as a man. I've been the aggressive person. I've been the fighter. I've been the tough guy. And honestly, if I were to go back and just become that guy, it would make me sick, because there's levels to being a man. And I want to bring people on this channel that basically can help educate people on those other areas as well.
Absolutely, man. That's why it was so cool for you to bring me on, man, because like you, my mission was to dispel the stereotypes as well. I mean, again, you got a good looking guy, sports, you know, you're supposed to play sports. You're supposed to do some labor shit. You're supposed to do something with your physicality. But when you decide to use your brain, you decide to dispel the stereotypes, you're shunned for it. And this is why, again, Alpha Villains, my goal, again, just like Deron's, is to really just have adult conversations about a variety of topics, but give a perspective that is very needed, because at the end of the day, it's not a one size fits all. Like you said, geek speak, you know what I mean? It's like guys who are nerds or what have you, quote unquote nerds. They can be aggressive. They can be a ladies' man. They could be a good man. They could be a father. They could be everything that they want to be. We shouldn't allow labels or molds to define us. And it's a very hard thing to do because the narrative and the algorithm. But again, you'll realize that although your life will probably be a little less, there'll be a lot less traffic on your journey. The people that you do come across will be people that are not only going to help you, but will probably be lifelong allies, like Deron said, because we've all been through the same shit, and we got on this road because we were distanced. We were shunned for trying to become better, as opposed to being embraced. Like we always say, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. And it's unfortunate that your peers and your race, the same people, are going to try to distance themselves from you. But at the end of the day, it's all about choosing what makes you feel good and choosing the path that best suited for you.
I got 2 more questions before this episode is done. And man, this was probably the easiest show that I've had to get through, because it just flowed naturally.
Let's go.
I'm still a little, because I'm so new to this space, I'm a little confused on what the red pill actually is. Is there a
Me
clear
too.
definition to the red pill,
Me too,
or
bro.
what
But
does it mean for you?
yeah. So the red pill, from what I gather, bro, it's basically from the Matrix, right? You remember when Neo took the pill, and
Okay.
the Matrix is the narrative, the real world, right? The lies that we were told, right? What we were supposed to do, control and fear. The red pill is in essence to combat that. It's really to kind of give us a clear overview as to what is really going on. So as opposed to being a gentleman, women are very receptive to gentlemen, as opposed to the Disney
Yeah.
programming where women could beat up 6'3", 5'10" guys and shit like that. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily realistic, right? So it's more about divisiveness. When I first came into the space, Duran, I thought the red pill had really good intentions. And again, I'm not shitting on the red pill, but
Yeah.
for me, there's something that is lacking. I think that the red pill is solely now mostly about female nature and not enough about male and masculine development nature. And I think that's where we're lacking. And I think a podcast for men, Finish Your Breakfast, Afi Kingdom, a lot of other guys that really just want to focus that, because to be honest with you, I've tried to do the silly shit at 48. It just doesn't sit right with me, and I look goofy doing it. So for me, instead of compromising my masculinity and my mission, man, I just want to do things that are going to make me feel good, that are going to be timeless, as opposed to being a fad. And I think what the red pill is right now is definitely gimmicky, and it's going to be a fad, because those guys that are being players, they're soon going to be married and have kids, and then their narrative is going to change. So if we don't change and we focus on masculinity, I think our content will be timeless.
One thing I think that is missing from this space is, well, missing from culture in general. We right now, what we're experiencing right now is like the women's liberation, like experience, whatnot. Women are liberated. Women basically have they can take on many different roles than they did traditionally about 50 to 60 years ago. But the problem is that a lot of men, at least I feel like the problem is a lot of men today are still trying to live by the roles and responsibility a man did 70 to 80 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So now men don't realize that because society is set up the way it is, that women have access to careers, and you're not dependent on just like your uncle's family, your grandparents. You're not as
Mm.
dependent on that social circle anymore. Your role as a man is not needed like it was needed before. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, I think men need to have their liberation movement where they're aware that they don't have to fit in the roles that they once did before. They can go and travel. They can have the freedom. They have so many different choices today than they had before, because if anybody was oppressed, we were just as oppressed as women were. We were responsible for making sure food was on the table,
Listen,
responsible for giving our lives. We
bro.
had way more, way more on the
Yeah,
table. Now we can kind of do what we want to do. And I think that conversation is missing, not only
very
from
well
this
said.
space, but from society.
Yeah, that is awesome, because that is so important too, man. You said something very important that I want you guys to remember. Deron basically saying that guys still think that we're running shit, like, you know what I mean, like 70, 80 years ago. It's not true. And this is what's very important about the way people learn today. We're all relying on the algorithm, the computer, to think for us, as opposed to using our mind and thinking for ourselves. Not everything is binary. At the end of the day, this is why it's so important to pivot. Yeah, women don't need us as much as they used to. Now they're independent of society, and the narrative's all in their favor, the laws, etc. So what should men do? Should men cry and grow these communities of guys crying? Or should we look for solutions, right? That's what men do. We should be solution based. In order to be solution based, sometimes we have to pivot. Sometimes we're going to have to compromise on some things. Sometimes you're going to lose a battle to try to win the war. At the end of the day, there is a war on masculinity. They clown me for saying that shit, but there is, on different levels. But at the end of the day, if you're not able to pivot, if you're not able to move, and pivoting should be synonymous with growing and evolving. I can't do the same content I was doing 3 years ago, bro, because at the end of the day, I sound like an older man that's just set in his ways, and that's not how you grow. That's not how you evolve. Things change. We have to pivot with it. There are some things that we have to keep true, because we know those are the fundamental and the building blocks of society. But like you said, if we have a liberation, we all band together in regards to the non-negotiables, we'll be in a lot better shape. We'll kind of even out the playing field for at least to have more advantages when it comes to this dating shit.
Last question. If you can go back to when you were 18, what would you do differently?
To when I was 18,
Yeah.
shit, that's a good one. Um,
Ask
If I,
everybody this.
yeah. If I can go back when I was 18, man, I probably wouldn't. I took a break before I went going to college. I probably would have went to college straight. I would have probably gone straight to school as opposed to just relying on the money because I was working in the mortgage industry during the bubble and shit like that. And I was making a lot of it. I was hustling in the streets too. I was doing some moves and shit. So I would have probably did a different route. I would have taken a different route as far as my scholastics, and I probably would have pursued the thing that I really wanted to pursue, which was wanted to be a doctor. All Haitians, they will all want you to be a doctor. I would have probably done that. I would have chosen that route first. But on the flip side of that too, Deron, man, I wouldn't have learned everything that I've learned, and maybe I wouldn't have been on the microphone having these stories and these experiences to help men. So it's difficult, man, because at 18, you think you know what you want. You think your parents tell you what you want, but purpose is ever evolving. And I didn't really know my purpose at 18. I would have probably been doing something that my mom wanted me to do to make her proud. Maybe that's what I would have done. But now that I know that what I know, I wouldn't change a thing, man. Even if I've turned my losses to lessons, and it's helped me become who I'm becoming still to this day.
Man, this has been a good show, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
I need to meet. I need to meet more men that are on this mindset because
Sure.
having these conversations actually help me. I can't go to my
Vice versa.
father and have these types of conversations. My dad
No.
can only tell me what he knows.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But meeting men that are also on this journey, it helps me understand myself and my spiritual journey as well, man.
Sure.
So
It's refreshing, man. Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just get at me anytime you want me to be on your show. You got something
Absolutely.
going,
Yeah,
posted,
definitely.
man.
Yeah, definitely. I want you to definitely. I do a series called One-on-One with AV. I'm definitely going to be bringing that back. I would love to have you on my show, man. But guys, do me a favor. Make sure you guys like this video. Check out my channel, man. Finish Your Breakfast with AV, weekday mornings, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I appreciate you for having me on, man. We definitely got to do this again because this is definitely needed.
Yep. All right, right on, man. Thank you for being here, AV, and I'll catch you next time. Peace, bro.
Peace.